Marc The Shark MMA Show.
Hi guys, this is Marc The Shark Ritorto, and welcome to the Marc The Shark MMA Show live on Twitch. I appreciate you guys keeping up and watching me. Make sure you follow. If you happen to have a Amazon Prime account, you can actually subscribe for free. And don't forget to follow me on my social media pages. The Marc The Shark MMA Show on Facebook, Marc BJJ Fighter on Twitter, and Marc_Ritorto on Instagram. And again, it's Marc with a C and not a K. And also don't forget to go to the website, MarcTheSharkMMAShow.com, where you can make a donation to help support the contest. And you can also get t-shirts and hoodies, kind of like this one that I'm wearing here. Not too shabby, right? And also don't forget that me and my daughter's got books that we have both written. Hers is called The Invisible Girl series. Mine, I have two. One's called The Cabal, The Saga Begins. And my second book, which is out right now, is called Marcus the Vampire. It's the first book in the Dark World Chronicle series. So check it out at www.ritortofamilybooks.com. All right, guys. When we come back, we'll start the show. I am sure you're going to love it. This week's episode is great. Make sure you follow me every week on this channel on Saturday. And don't forget that I also have a podcast, the Marc The Shark MMA Show, which is available on Podbean.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Defense Soap. Defend what you have built. Save 15% with the code Marc The Shark MMA Show, used by all jiu-jitsu and MMA athletes to prevent skin infections. This podcast is also brought to you by Audible. Go to www.audibletrial.com/MMA Show, and you get a free audiobook when you sign up for a 30-day trial. This podcast episode is also brought to you by Ritorto Family Books. If you're interested in great books for your children to read, get books by Kristina Ritorto. And if you're interested in action, thriller, suspense books, you can get The Cabal, The Saga Begins, or fantasy books like Marcus the Vampire, both written by your host, Marc The Shark Ritorto. Again, go to www.ritortofamilybooks.com. Also, do not forget to go to the Marc The Shark MMA Show podcast website, the shop, for our merchandise. We got t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, hats, and even mugs. Anything you can want with the Marc The Shark MMA Show podcast name on it. And also, please do not forget to go to our website where you can make a donation to support the podcast. All you have to do is click on the donation button.
All right, guys, we'll be right back. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Marc The Shark MMA Show. Today, I am here with Zane, and we're getting
What's
ready
up,
to
Mark?
call our fight predictions for UFC 257, Poirier versus Conor McGregor. First off, we got Jessica Eye versus Joanne Calderwood. What do you think about that one? Jessica Eye.
This fight.
Huh?
I like this fight. This is it's definitely not a title fight. These are two girls that have had a lot of wins, some losses, a couple of KOs themselves, maybe got, beat down themselves, but this is going to be a fun fight. I feel that they're both on the same level. And I just think that I'm a fan of both. And I think that there's a good following for both of these girls. I think that there's probably going to be a little bit of a feeling out situation, or maybe the first round probably won't be too much action, or I could be wrong. I just know that JoJo, she doesn't seem to be the most aggressive. She's not really a huge power puncher.
Yeah.
And I think that she likes to take things to the ground. I think that she's pretty good on the ground. Jessica I think likes to mix it up a little bit more on the feet. So
Yep.
I think it's a nice little contrast.
Yeah, I do have to say that Jessica Eye has improved, I think, a little bit on the groundwork. But like you said, she's more of a stand-up fighter. They're both veterans. Jessica I's got 23 fights, 15 of them wins, and Joanne's got 19 fights, 14 of them wins. So I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those fights. I'm anticipating that it's going to be like a do or die for these women. Like if they lose, or there might be a call for them to be let go by the UFC. They both have, like you said, a lot of wins, and I mean they win some, then they lose some. It's not like they've been on big win streaks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that they're a good high mid-range fighter. I think that they've always been in the spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that they're, top 5. It's not. These are fighters that have fighting in their blood. I think that they love it.
Yeah.
I think that they're usually in pretty good shape all the time, but I don't see their skills being wowing anyone. So I would say under the top 5, they're definitely, a good fighter, a good challenge. But these are fighters that girls have to get past in order to be, that top 5 fighter.
I have a gut feeling that I think this might be the loser gets kicked out, because I was just checking their record now. They're both coming off losses.
Yeah, and they're coming off losses of, with big name fighters.
Yeah.
I know that JoJo, she lost to Calveo, and I thought that, well, Calveo's a tough girl, and she's up there. I think that Calveo, I'm forgetting all my stats, but you probably have it better. But I think Calveo, she might have lost recently, so I have to look at the ranking system.
Yeah, like Jessica I lost to Cynthia Calveo in her last fight, and Joanne
and so did JoJo.
lost. Yeah, but I think that was a little bit earlier. Her last fight was against Jennifer Maia, but they both had they had a win and then they lost. So it's like the crossroads, I think, for them. They lose one, they win one. They lose one, they win one. And I know they usually have that. If you have like 3, I think it's usually 3 losses in a row. But we'll see how this plays out. Then again, it's the women's league. They don't have that big of a pool, right? It's not like the men's. I mean, it's big, but it's not like for every weight division, the men's divisions, there's probably like 100 fighters, right? For women, it's probably like 20, right?
I think it's a decent. I think that there's a decent amount. I think that there's plenty. I think for the men, it might be very, very difficult for any guy to get noticed. I mean, they got to be a jerk, or they have to be flashy, or a huge knockout, or something crazy for it's. I think much more difficult for a guy to get noticed than a girl. But I think that there's still a decent, each weight class is decently deep with competition.
Yeah. Now let's get into the next fight. Now the next fight is I'm kind of excited about. I don't know if you follow
Chandler and
Chandler. You may, because I know you usually don't follow Bellator, but he's like the Matt Hughes of Bellator. I mean, he's like a 3-time world champ over at Bellator, and I think Dan Hooker, what's his rating? He's got to be like top 5 now, right? Because he's got some pretty good wins.
I think Hooker is pretty up there. I mean, I like Hooker, but
we know he's definitely in a top 10, right? Because he beat the Irish Dragon, right? That's a top 10 guy, right?
If that's it. So, well, sometimes that happens where you beat a top 10 guy, but they might not put you in the top 10. You might be so far down. But I understand your thinking. But as far as Chandler, you're definitely much more knowledgeable of him than I am, because you seem to be more well versed in all these different types of challenges.
Yeah, like Chandler, he had what he's really known for is, I think he had it was 2 or 3 fights. Like he beat Ben Henderson twice. And the last time he knocked him out, right? But there was the guy that Connor beat for Alvarez, Eddie Alvarez. That's what
Yes.
brought it up. Him and Chandler. This was going back to the days where Bellator had tournament styles, right? Not like the UFC where you do it all on one night. What the Bellator did is you win one, then you continue and you move up the ladder, right? And they tend to do that with their I forget the other belt series that they have. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. But these two guys, Chandler and Eddie Alvarez, they have a win and a loss. Like they beat one, then they come back and they lose, but they had to go up the tournament chain, right? Like if you get knocked off the following year, you have to start over and then you win back up. So those two are known for their battles. That's why Eddie Alvarez, when he gets tagged, he gets knocked out a lot because it's from those battles he had with Michael Chandler. So if Hooker can beat him, it's saying a big deal because Chandler, I thought was going to be given a title shot right away. You know what I mean? But
Well, I guess it has to do a lot with putting fans in the seats, notoriety, um, likability, all that kind of stuff. I think that, especially with COVID right now, there's probably some fighters that don't want to take as many fights, or maybe have to quarantine, or they just, they got to be put on a waiting list. So, but I do think that regardless of that, I think that now being in the UFC, wherever these guys land after this fight, I think it's going to put them in a really good standing in the lineup. So maybe, this one should have had this shot, that one should have had that shot. But at least now, after this fight, I think that the winner, even the loser too, they're going to land in a pretty good spot in the UFC lineup. That's at least my take of it.
Yeah. Real quick, did you say who your pick was for Joanne versus Jessica?
I did not. I
Yeah,
forgot
I
to
knew
tell
we
you.
got that. What do you
That's all
think?
right. You know what? I like both of these girls. I think that they both have a really great shot. It's 50-50 right now. And like I said, I like both of them. And
Yeah.
I think that they're stand-up girls. But if I had to pick someone that maybe I'm just I fancy a little bit more, I would have to go with JoJo. I just like her personality. She's not a heavy hitter. She's she's not I guess I like her more because she's not a shit talker, and she's just very, very sweet during interviews and just seems to be like this sweet little, flower, but, she can fight. So if I had to pick someone, like both of them, but I'm going to go with JoJo on this.
Okay. I think I'm gonna. I don't know. Something tells me I'm gonna go with just. I don't know. I think you are right. I think she may win. I like Jessica better, but I don't know because she's like I said, she's hot and cold.
Yeah, some fighters are like that. I agree with you. Some fighters, they come in where, they might have two great,
I'm gonna go
strong
with
fights.
Joanne. I think Jessica has been beaten up too much. Like she's got too many wars. Now with this one, I don't think you're gonna be able like Chandler versus Hooker. I don't know, man. Right?
Well,
Because
who
there's
do you
very
think?
few Bellator guys. Eddie Alvarez, I think, is the only guy who came over from Bellator that did good, right? Askren. Well, he went from
There are a couple.
Bellator.
I mean, if we're going back 5-6 years, there are definitely a decent number of guys that did well, but they had to be high level. They had to be guys that really, really stood out, like champions, in order to do well in UFC. Like the California Kid, he.
That's a different division, though. This is I don't know.
But I agree with you.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence with this one too. I'm hoping it's Chandler, but I don't think it's going to be that easy of a fight for him because Hooker is like a little younger. He hasn't been in as many wars as Chandler, but Chandler just not like he's one of those guys. In order to stop him, you got to hit him with like a bat a few times, and then maybe shoot him. He's
Well,
that tough of a guy, dude. And
Let me ask you.
unlike Eddie Alvarez, he has a chin. Like I don't even I'm trying to remember if he's ever even. Let me check his record real quick.
Well, let me ask you,
He's
Mark.
ever
If the
knocked out.
fight goes to the ground,
He's
you
got one
mentioned.
loss by knockout, and it's Patricia Pitbull, who, in my opinion, even though he's not in the UFC, is probably one of the best flyweights that ever fought. Like he's better than everybody. He's got like knockout powers in both hands and great jiu-jitsu. Like I mean, I know you don't follow Bellator, but Patricia Pitbull is one of the best MMA fighters that's ever lived, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned that Chandler is like the Matt Hughes
Yeah,
of
but with
Bellator.
hands, he's like Matt Hughes that can box, and he's got knockout power. So there's a big difference. Like he's better than Matt Hughes was, but you know what I mean? Like Matt Hughes was a decent wrestler, didn't really have that decent hands. He was okay with submissions. He was just really tough and gritty. Chandler's got bombs for hands. He can box and he can wrestle.
Well, let me ask you.
And he beat Ben Askren, who's a lot significantly like even though they were the same weight class. Ben, I've seen him off season. He's a huge guy. Chandler's like a little short dude.
All right, let me ask you a question, Mark. If it goes to the ground, you mentioned that Chandler was like Matt Hughes. Now, Matt Hughes was an accomplished wrestler.
Oh, if it goes to the ground, he's going to crush that guy. Hooker has no chance on the ground.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
do you think Hooker has the ability to stay on his feet?
The advantage is the Hooker is a. Okay, but then he beat Ben Henderson. Hooker, I think, is a better kickboxer. Let's put it this way.
I know, but do you think he's going to be able to?
Chandler has knockout power. If that
But do you
makes
think he's
sense.
going to be able to stay on his feet, though? That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I'll give it to Chandler.
I think Chandler likes to mix it up. He likes to bang. Don't get me wrong, but I think he's going to be smart and then take him to the ground and just ground the pound on him and knock him out. Like he fought Ben Henderson twice, and the last time he fought him, he knocked him out. I think it was like within 2 minutes of the first round. And the first fight was one of the best fights I ever saw. He had Henderson. He slammed him on his. I thought Henderson was like never going to be the same. I mean, he slammed him on his neck. He pounded, and he survived. Got back up and kept fighting. I mean, it was one of the best fights I've ever seen in MMA. But that last fight, he knocked him out pretty fast. So this will be seen. But like they say, like the UFC is usually like a higher caliber fighter. So we'll see. I mean, Hooker's riding on a wave of confidence, right? I mean, he beat the Dragon, who's always been in a top 8. You know, he's got a real good win streak. But now let's get to the main event because we're running a little bit out of time here. Conor, your video cut out. Conor versus Poirier. And now this is the amazing thing. I don't know why people. I think people are just excited about this fight. I think it's just mostly because of Conor, right? Because I mean, it's not. I don't know. I would think more people will get more excited about a matchup if the fight went the distance, right? Like his fight with Nate Diaz. This one, he smoked Poirier. But I think people just get excited every time Conor gets in the ring. But I mean, he doesn't fight as often as Poirier. But Poirier hasn't fought as often this past year anyway. But then again, who has, right? Because of the COVID. But I just like the idea that both guys are knockout artists, and I haven't been following up with the usual countdown that they usually have. I don't know if you have. I know sometimes you do. But, I mean, what's your take on this one?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of Poirier. I honestly don't.
Fighting-wise or no? Because I'm surprised. Usually you like the guys that are nice and, charitable and, because he gives a lot of, time, money to do it. He's got a big nonprofit organization. So what is it? You don't like him personally or you just don't like his fighting?
No, he doesn't seem to be a bad guy. It's
Oh, you
just
just don't
that
like fighting. Okay.
no, his fighting isn't horrible. I mean, obviously he's up there. Um, but there's just something about his personality where he has like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder where he doesn't seem to be a natural tough guy, and he just wants everyone to believe that he is a tough guy. And I'm sure like it's proven, he's up there in the rankings. But something about the fights he had, like I remember him beating Gaethje, and I'm like, Gaethje destroyed Tony Ferguson. Gaethje, first of all, was just tough as nails before he reinvented himself for Tony Ferguson. But after what he did, how he reshaped his fighting style and the ability to just land on and just destroy a great stand-up fighter like Tony Ferguson. I would love to see Gaethje and Poirier again, and I think that Gaethje would crush him. But we'll see how he does first with Conor. And I think honestly, Conor has too much power. He has more power than Poirier. I think he has better stand-up, and I think that neither one of them really like going to the ground. So I just think that Poirier is going to have something that he wants to prove to Conor, and I think it's going to be not a very good choice. I think that Poirier is going to have to really mix it up, especially attack the legs. First thing is you want to attack the body, attack the legs, get him to stop moving, get him tired, get him to stop attacking you, and he's going to have to really mix it up, high, low, every now and then take down, beat him down, get up. And he's going to have to be moving, not just kind of wait, because Conor's, you allow yourself to lay back, Conor's going to hunt you down. He's going to knock you out.
I'm wondering if Poirier is going to do something different and try to wrestle him. I wonder.
I don't think so. I think Poirier's got it in his mind. Again, this is that little boy syndrome. He's like, I'm going to get him this time. Like I think he's got something to prove. Like he's like, all right, you knocked me out. Now I'm going to knock you out. I'm a big boy now. And I'm like, that's not the way to fight, that high level of a fighter. It's just known. Like Conor is still amazing. Even though he might have lost, once or twice, he's still a great fighter. Like you don't want to mess with him. You got to be a truly gifted fighter to beat him.
So I take it you have Conor for this fight then, right?
Yeah, I don't like Conor, but I'm not a huge fan of Poirier, and I would like, if I had to say who would I like to win, yeah, I want Poirier to win. Do I think he's going to win? No. And I think it's going to be another knockout.
All right. I think Conor's going to win. I think if it was me and Poirier was smart, I would try to wrestle him, but I don't think he's got it in him. But I think it might be. I hope it's not. I know we're going to be paying for this fight, but it might be a first-round knockout again. Like, I don't know.
It might. I think it might be. It might be a slight bit more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe he might come out all fierce and open himself up, or think he's doing better, and then you're just going to give Conor more of an. You have to get in and out on Conor. You got to get in, get your combination, and then move, stick and move. Combination here, up, fake the takedown. Now hit the leg, and then back up to a combination, and now move, circle. Like you got to confuse Conor. You can't allow Conor to fight his fight. And that's what I think Poirier wants to do. Poirier wants to beat him at his own game, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Well, we'll see. I think that's all we have time for today, guys, and everybody else who's listening to the show or watching the show. I guess we'll see what happens when we do our UFC recap the following weekend after that fight. The fight is not this weekend; it's next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, right?
January 26th, I think.
Yeah. And then we'll do a recap probably the day after, and then we'll see. All right, Zane. Thanks for being on the show. Take care.
All right, Mark. Thank you.
All righty.
During World War II, I was in prison
in a Nazi camp. I died there, or so I thought. Instead, I became a creature of the dark world. Now I fight to protect my daughter. I am Marcus the Vampire. The book is now available at Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and RitortoFamilyBooks.com.
All right, guys, this week's episode is done on a live show. But if you happen to be listening to this in the podcast format, keep listening because there's more content to follow. All right, guys, see you guys next week.